Hello Vinyl Community, this is David Bianco. Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, thanks for hanging out. So, this is really a part 2 of a vinyl shootout I did 1 month ago at the beginning of June 2023, and it was for the classic Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young Deja Vu album. And in that particular shootout, I was comparing the original master recording, 1983 Stan Ricker cut, the half-speed master of that, to some other versions, including OGs or original first presses of this. I found that the mobile fidelity was to my liking and was the one that I picked as the winner, and in doing so, crowned it the king of Deja Vu. Well, in the comments, I had received some questions saying, well, did you compare it to the 50th anniversary cut by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grundman Mastering? And I said, no, I don't have that one, so I obviously couldn't do that. And my friend Brad, who I've done a shootout with live of The Night Fly by Donald Fagen was mine. He did Carole King Tapestry, comparing one steps and other versions, offered to lend me his so that I could, in fact, do that particular shootout. And so the 2021 release, May of 2021, this is the insert for the album, and then some CDs are in there. And also, of course, the Chris Bellman cut is in here as well. So the task at hand was to compare the MoFi to this 2021 cut by Chris Bellman. This one was pretty easy in the sense that the difference between the two was pretty squarely placed in a couple of areas and was very consistent throughout the record. So the bottom line is this. The MoFi has what I would call a crisper sound. The S's, there's no semblance, but the S's are a little more top end, where your crisp kind of a sound is what you hear, a little more with cymbals and tambourines, and anything percussive is a little brighter, but not overly bright, just brighter, a little less veiled, which is what I would call the Chris Bellman cut. It's a little less bright or top end present, and but it's warm. It's more of a warm sound. So if you're the type of person like me who does like that little crisper top end without semblance at all, then the MoFi would be a better choice for you. If you like a good, strong cut that maybe is a little more warm, a little less strong on that end, then the Chris Bellman 50th year anniversary would be for you. They're both very enjoyable and very strong, but when I put on the MoFi first and listened to tracks as I went and compared the two side by side and started flipping back and forth, I could see that there was a little bit of that veiled effect, as if the tweeter had something over it a bit on the Chris Bellman cut. So it is really a matter of taste and what you like, at least the way it sounds on my system and to my ears, which is all I can do. So that really is the basic breakdown. I do want to make one comment, and that is there was one other distinction that always should be thought of and listened for, and that is the quietness of the vinyl. The mobile fidelity definitely had the edge there. Using that super vinyl JVC that was used, that transparent vinyl, virgin vinyl, it definitely had a quieter surface. Not to say that the Bellman was loud in any way. It wasn't. but I would call the mobile fidelity close to dead quiet, as opposed to some surface noise on the Chris Bellman cut. And again, some of these things pick up even more when you're listening to it, of course, on headphones. And soundstage was very similar between the two, although I would say that the Bellman cut was a little flatter. It didn't quite have the depth. And I can imagine that potentially has something to do with the age of the tape, potentially. There were a couple of spots where when I compared the two, there was a certain smoothness in the sound that I heard on the MoFi that felt a little ruffled, I would call it, on the Bellman. And that may have been tape. That may have been some deoxidizing over time, or a spot where that tape had laid into the other tape in the reel right next to it and had a little bit of wear. There were a couple of spots in quieter areas of different songs where I picked that up. And again, we talked about the life of tape and this particular kind of thing that makes a remastering a challenge. Because let's face it, back in the early 80s when this came out in the mobile fidelity, and of course the record itself was cut in 1970, those tapes were fresher at that time. But even the mobile fidelity being, 12, 13 years from the original, that didn't have that effect. And so maybe that was something that came through the Bellman cut. Again, it wasn't very pronounced. I only picked it up when I did some critical listening on headphones and comparing the two on some of the quieter passages of instrumentation and vocals. And I think it was one time on each side. So is that a showbreaker? No, I don't think it's anything that really makes it unenjoyable. It really wasn't perceptive on speakers. And again, these two really break out into if you like the crisper sound, MoFi, if you like the a little warmer sound on the top end especially as well, then you go with the Bellman cut. Both great to listen to, just some nuance difference between them. So as always, thanks for watching the channel. If you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate you considering that by pressing on the bell in the top all option. And a thumbs up or like is welcome as well. Comments, what do you think? Do you have the 50th anniversary? What do you think of it? These things get so close, it's really sometimes splitting hairs. They're both really high quality. Again, they definitely have a distinction, which is kind of good, because that way if you like something a little one way, you buy that one. If you like the other more, then you can purchase the Bellman. So again, it comes to personal listening preferences. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye and say thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time on our next Safe and Sound Texas audio excursion. Take care, everybody.